Now, there's been an investigation into the death of the former Premier League footballer Dalian Atkinson. He was 48, played for Aston Villa, and in the early hours of yesterday morning, a taser was used on him by police who'd been called out to an address in Telford. Dalian Atkinson was pronounced dead shortly afterwards. Richard Taylor has campaigned for several years against the rollout of tasers to frontline police officers.
Well, I've been opposing the rollout of tasers to frontline officers for quite a few years now. I think it's absolutely right that the armed officers should have a taser to use as a less lethal alternative to a conventional firearm. But I think if we're going to have, as we do increasingly now, have more and more officers who are responding to incidents or who are on patrol armed with tasers, and I think the risk is that we see instances where the police are using disproportionate amount of force. And it's difficult for the police officers to know what the impact is going to be when they pull the trigger or press the switch on a taser. They don't know how someone is going to fall, for example. If you get tasered, you get shocked and you lose all control over your muscles. So your head falls to the ground. And if you can't break that fall, you can't catch yourself, your head can hit a concrete floor or hit a curb and can do some serious damage. And the police aren't going to know whether somebody's ill or on drugs. And those are things which can make the impact that a taser has on someone unpredictable. And just the barbs themselves, just firing those barbs into somebody, is clearly incredibly dangerous, especially if it hits you in the face or eyes. So one thing I'm hoping that comes out of the recent incidents is that the police officers who are carrying tasers and the police in general become aware that these are very dangerous weapons. They are less lethal than a conventional firearm, but they can still do serious damage.
So basically you're saying the training isn't good enough?
No, I don't. When I say I want to see the firearms officers have them, that's because those are the people who are trained and experienced in dealing with conflict and choosing the appropriate level of force. And I have confidence in the firearms officers having taser and having firearms and using them appropriately. But yeah, when we get the rollout to more and more frontline officers, I am concerned that their level of training and experience isn't going to be sufficient. And yes, they will be trained in the technicalities of using the weapon, but they are not those officers who are experts in dealing with violent situations. And I would rather have the tasers limited to those who are the experts and have that experience.
Dalian's nephew called for the fact that every time a taser is used, they should immediately ring for an ambulance. Would you go along with that? Yes,
I think we've had that before in a number of taser cases, including in Merseyside, and it's about how we deal with people after the incident. Things like, should the barbs be removed by a medical professional rather than police officers? And I think they should be. And certainly the idea that you should call an ambulance and get people to have medical assistance and proper medical assistance. So at the moment, in Merseyside, the protocol is that you have to be seen by a force medical examiner, but that's somebody who is acting on behalf of the police, who's employed by the police. Really, people should be looked at by paramedics, certainly, and if necessary, taken into A&E to be monitored. So certainly we should review what happens to people after they've been tasered. I think what needs to happen is experts need to look at all these cases, and we need to be properly informed. So the inquest needs to be in public, and the coroner conducting that inquest needs to be thinking that he's not just working for the family, although that's very important, but has to be informing the public and informing public policy. So informing the Police and Crime Commissioner, informing the Chief Constables, so that we can actually get some safe practices around the use of tasers.
Although I understand your concerns, there's much, as I understand it, much less use of tasers here than in other countries, in particular America.
Well, I certainly think that we should look to America when we're looking at developing our own policies, because that's a country where they've used tasers for longer and they've got more of them. So we should look there when we're looking at their safety. But really, one of the main reasons I'm campaigning is because I don't want to see us going down an American-style culture of policing. I don't want to see that in Britain, where policing is done under the threat of a use of force. When the British police operate, I want to see the primary threat that they operate with is the threat that you will be brought to justice, that there will be a due process, that there will be a significant and serious penalty if you assault a police officer, for example. I don't think we actually get that in this country at the moment. I've been to court, spent days in court, and I've watched no separate penalty given for an element of assault against a police officer. I've seen £50 fines for assaulting a police officer. So I think we need that to be strengthened. It's justice, a speedy justice system is what we need. I don't want to see the American style of policing by force.
That's Richard Taylor, and you may have comments to make. Whatever you want to talk about, it's 01517099333. Ray from Heighton with Roby next. Hello, Ray.